Hello everybody, welcome back to another REPL.it speedrun, another REPL.it Python speedrun. Today we will be going from 6.7, section 6.7 to section 6.9. So for section 6.7, the task is given a sequence of non-negative integers where each number is written in a separate line. The sequence ends with 0. Print the average of the sequence. So if our input is 10, 30, and 0, our output should be 20. That is the average of 10 and 30 because 0 is the end of the sequence and we do not count that. So first let's get input. Let's get an input. So n equals input. This will be getting the first number here. Then we are going to be getting two variables. We're going to be making two variables. The total of the numbers, which currently will equal 0, and the number of numbers, or the count of the numbers, which is also 0. So to be getting the average, I will be dividing the total by the count of the numbers. Now let's make our while loop. While n is unequal to 0, so while our input is not equal to 0, then we have to add n to our total. So total plus equals n. Now we also have to add to our count because we have just added to our total, meaning that we've added to a number to our sum. So count plus equals 1. Now we have to update the input because if we don't update it, then n will keep on equaling 10 forever and ever. So, and we want to update n so that it can go down the list. So n equals input. By doing this, every time the while loop passes, it will go, n will be one line down. So from 10, it will become 30. Then it will become 0. It will stop when it reaches 0, of course, because I check over here while n is equal to 0. Now all we have to do is print the average. So print total divided by count. So if we try and run this, and we put the example inputs 10 and 30 and 0, it will equal 20.0. So now that we submit this, it should be correct. On to 6.8. Given a sequence of non-negative integers where each number is written on a separate line, the sequence ends with 0. Print the maximum of the sequence. So for example, we have as our input 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, and a 0. Our output is the maximum, which is 3. As you can see that it is the biggest number here in our inputs. So, as always, let's get our input. So n equals input. Next, let's get a tracker for the biggest number that we get in our sequence. So big underscore number equals 0. Actually no, equals n. So no, let's make it 0. So right now our biggest number is 0, but when we keep on updating n, it will become 1, then 2, then 3. Now let's make our while loop. So while n is not equal to 0, then we should check if n is bigger than our biggest number. If n is bigger than the big number, then big number equals n. So what we have here is we check if n is greater than the biggest number, which is now 0. And here, if n is bigger, then we make our big number the value of n. So say n equals 1. 1 is equal to 0, and 1 is bigger than 0. So our big number will now equal 1. Now we have to update our number, the value n. So n equals int input. Then after this, that means the input will be equal to 2. So 2 is still unequal to 0. And 2, if 2 is bigger than the biggest number, and now the biggest number is 1. So is 2 greater than 1? Yes. So now our big number will be equal to 2. And now this will keep on repeating and repeating until we get 0. So if we print this, if we print big number, we submit this. Actually, let's test it first. So we get our inputs, and that means we should get 3. So now if we submit this, it means 6.8. Task 6.8, while loops, maximum of sequence is correct with this code. Now onto 6.9, while loops, index of maximum. Our task is, given a sequence of non-negative integers where each number is written in a separate line, the sequence ends with 0. Print the index of the first maximum of the sequence. So the index is the place where the number is. So this is 1, the index of this is 1, the index of this is 2, the index of this is 3, etc. So the example output is 3, meaning the maximum number is 9. So we have to find where the maximum number is. First, I'm going to make a variable, n equals int input. This will get the input, of course. Next, I will be making the max number variable that was also in the last 6.8. So max number equals 0. Now we have to get an index. So I will be making an index variable. So index equals 1. Now I'm going to be making a max index. So you'll see how I will be using this maximum index variable, as these two are very different. I will be using this to count. I will be using the index variable to count the numbers, and I will be using the maximum index variable to store where the maximum index will be. So let's start with our while loop. While n is n equal to 0, then if n is bigger than the maximum number, the maximum number will equal n. Then, now in this if loop, we will also be putting that the maximum index equals the index, because the index we will be updating the index here, not inside the if loop. Therefore, every time this while loop runs, the index for sure will be updated. But only if n is bigger than the maximum number will the maximum index be updated. Therefore, we can separate the maximum index, the index of the maximum number from the index of the whole list. Now we can update the number n, the variable n, so it gives us a new input. So in our while loop right now, it checks if the input is not equal to 0. Then if it is not equal to 0, it will check if our input is bigger than the maximum number. Then it will check that then if this is true, then the maximum number will be equal to n. Then the maximum index will be equal to the index. And regardless if this if statement is true, then our index, we will add 1 to our index, and we will be updating our variable which stores our input. Now we have to print max index, which would be 3, for example. Now with this code, if we submit it, actually let's run it first. So let's get our example input. Let's put it here, and our example output is 3. Now if we submit this, it should be correct. And that's it for Python speedrun REPL.it 6.9, 6.7 to 6.9. Thanks for watching and hope to see you next time.